Hey, we're live.
Hey, we're
My
live.
Google background thing is
Yeah,
is
it's all right.
acting funny, and we'll get some more graphics. But due to demand, we're getting this on a weekly schedule now, and just kind of sorting out the best time of day. So much to talk about all around AI as it relates really to sales and marketing and product development. Um, I'm Chris Bryce from Dotfusion. We build world class websites and mobile apps that are all somehow either built with some or a lot of AI or integrated and uh, incorporating AI experiences for authors that are using CMSs and also for customers that are using the websites themselves. Dave?
And I'm David Chudak, and I'm with Toronto AI, and we work with Dotfusion to provide AI solutions to all of the great clients at Dotfusion, and we're cooking up a lot of voice agents lately and custom AI projects, and just here to talk about what's interesting this week in the world of AI.
Awesome. And I forgot my cool glasses, so I can't really see anything on my screen. So if I'm squinting funny, let
It's
me
not a
know.
problem.
Let's get on. I know probably want to just do a brief debrief on what's been happening with GTP5 and your thoughts on it. It's kind of part of our full suite of what we use every day, and I know you have some thoughts around that.
Yeah, so that's been like the big news this week was the launch. People's reception of the launch. There's some good things about it, some bad things about it. People are starting to sort of realize that as these models push towards future versions, they're starting to consider the efficiency and power consumption of these models. So, some of the complaints have been that the responses have been like really shortened in order to try to reduce the consumption. But at the same time, I would say that also people were expecting like a brand new model from GPT-5, and I think what's happened under the hood is it's more of like a model router where they've made some improvements, but it's now routing to individual models that are more successful at performing the given task that the user has put forward. So the good things about that, the good thing about that is that for tech stacks that really rely, like especially stuff that we do, that voice agents, for example, that rely on a tech stack that includes one of these tools, the latency of the tool is actually very important. So being able to cut that latency time in this new model was huge for voice technology because it actually makes it much more functional, and the response times are much more human and natural. So I found that, like, from our perspective, there's been a lot of wins with this model, but I think that people were really hoping that some of the new like open source model sort of like architecture that's out in the world right now, that's like making a lot of like noise, like the mixture of recursions and all of these like new models that are coming out from Sapien. I think people were more thinking there was going to be like a tectonic shift with GPT-5, and really I think this iteration was more about like efficiency and speed than it was about like model domination.
Yeah, and also like access to everyone, which I think is the cool part of it. When you've got it's deciding whether to do research, you've got everything in one. Give me a graphic, do some research, scan a website. You can there's basically the way it works is you've got your projects, you got your custom GTPs, and now you have agents all accessible to anyone. Free version is super powerful. It's kind of like the Starbucks of GTPs. I think it does an above average job for most things, and it's just part of the everyday tools.
Agreed. And we're seeing the same sort of trend over on like the XAI side, where Grok 4 has come out and they've got like Super Grok gives you like really like heavy research. And then, well, not, I shouldn't call it heavy research because there's a heavy mode,
Right.
which if you're paying like
Heavy duty.
$3,000, yeah, $3,000 a year, it's like a multi-agent high consumption model for like organizations that need this. I sort of was looking at like the difference between just Grok 4 for like super grok versus like super grok heavy. And like the YouTube sort of feedback on the reviews that I had seen is that like in some cases it would be good, but it's like for the average user, like grok super grok 4 is like pretty amazing as it is already. I think it's just like if you have enterprise money to throw around and you care about that little bit more performance, like it would get you maybe slightly better results. But from the reviews I've seen, grok 4 heavy isn't really that much different than super grok 4.
Yeah, and for people out there that are just kind of tuning in now or afterwards, I mean, you can pick up Abacus or Perplexity that are giving you access to GPT-5 and all the other models,
Yes.
for $10 or $20 a month. The only thing is you don't get the kind of memory and projects and team stuff. But if you're just asking it questions or getting it to kind of write or rewrite stuff, I think that's probably the best way to go, because you can try them all and start to understand the nuances too.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, Perplexity is great for that. And I think Chris is going to talk about some new cool stuff that Perplexity has been doing that's super disruptive in a little bit. But also for users that might not want to like go deep on the subscriptions, but still test those, there's always that tool Blackbox AI, which allows you to do side-by-side comparisons. I would heavily recommend getting Perplexity though, and this is our segue for Chris to talk about some pretty crazy stuff that's happening right now.
What a cool week. So maybe just for like snippet purposes, hey, let's talk about Perplexity Comet. So Perplexity Comet is Perplexity's answer to a web browser. So Perplexity has its app itself, which has a great voice interface and allows you to also choose any model you want for the task at hand.
Mm-hmm.
But Perplexity Comet is essentially Google Chrome, hence the big $35 billion offer for Perplexity to buy Chrome. It's Google Chrome wrapped in Perplexity AI. So you get essentially the same Google Chrome browser with the dev inspector interface, everything Google Chrome has, plus kind of a sidebar voice or chatbot agent that is managing and the tasks of the website it's viewing or websites. Dude, maybe I'll just fire up my screen.
I think spin it up, because when you showed me this, it actually like broke my mind a little bit. It was really it was way further ahead of where I would have envisioned an AI-based browser to like come out, just like the first one on the scene that's disruptive. Like this is like mega disruptive.
It's pretty awesome. There's a waiting list if you have Perplexity, the basic paid account, whatever that is, Pro, I think. The wait list is 1 day. So I downloaded it, and then I was kind of like, I don't know, I've got a lot of group tabs, as you can see up along the top. I didn't want to transfer all those over. It did pick up on all my bookmarks, no problem, because it is Chrome out of the box. And then I started kind of digging into it a little bit, and where it really started blowing my mind was when I was doing a search on Upwork for a VA. So I'm looking for a VA to help manage these podcasts, for example. So I put a job description up, and 20 people replied. In some cases, there's you can get hundreds of people replying. So this is the Perplexity Comet browser. It's just Google Chrome with this additional assistant section over here. And instead of going through each of these candidates, which I have to click kind of a view more button, slide this around, read all this stuff, I simply say, can you short list these for me? So what happens is it's actually going through the page that you're seeing on the left-hand side. And you'll see in a moment, it's going in and putting in browser inputs. Ooh, someone's doing something magic. You get that sound?
No.
Well, I think you guys. 1 second. I got a weird sound on my side. Anyway, you can see it's going through, opening windows, opening tabs. It's reading all the candidates' information. And because I told it to also acknowledge the job description, it has context for what it's doing. So what it's over on the side here, it tells you what it's thinking while it's browsing through the page. And I'll keep talking because this kind of goes on for a little bit as it goes through all of these. It's going
Yeah.
to go through every one on the list and give me a short list.
But you can
And then,
imagine, Chris, if you were going through this manually, like on a human level, like the comparative of how much time it would take Perplexity to do this work versus like for you to go through it manually and sort of like really
absolutely.
thoughtfully do all of this work that it's doing
And
right now.
I'm
So
writing no hands here. So
yeah,
I
Chris
just
can be making coffee. Chris can be making coffee while this is happening.
so I don't want to take up all of our time, but the really cool thing about this is not only does it wind up giving me a complete short list of 5 candidates and why, I then asked it to create in my calendar a space to do interviews and to send that calendar link in a private message to the top 5 folks that were shortlisted. And it went through, opened a window, pasted a personalized message based on their profile to all of the 5 candidates that were shortlisted and sent them all an invite to my Google Calendar. It's just like really cool. And just another example that we stumbled upon a minute ago
Yeah.
was one of the tools that we're using, basically AI APIs. We were running low on our API credits. So I went over to the AI's API page and I went into Comet and said, can you just re-up $5 on our API credits? It went in there, realized that there was a minimum $10, said, hey, I'm going to bump this up to $10, clicked on the up re-up button, gave me a context window over on the right-hand side and said, are you cool if I do this purchase? And I said, yes. So then you set
And
up
the amazing,
sequences.
and the amazing part is Chris, that it's taken all of that information that's in the payment interfaces. So you've got your credit card numbers stored. So, and all of your Google credentials are built into the browser. So it doesn't need to constantly be stopping for information to validate credentials or anything. It just intuitively is using all of the logins that are already in place. And
Yeah,
that's
because
the
I'm logged
beauty.
in Chrome and here's
Yeah.
my short lists and why. And anyway, just really cool. It's probably worth talking about the downside of this. Like, why are they doing this? What do they know about me now? You got to think that ads are coming down the road. It knows that I have a couple of podcasts, obviously, because I'm looking for VA to support me. I work with N8N. We build big websites for these different companies, so all of my research is there. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to get ads, I'd rather get decent ones.
Yeah, and I think
It's kind of,
like, those personalized user customer experience related stuff is always going to exist and it's going to get more and more tailored, but at the same time, like it's more relevant, so it becomes sort of less annoying too because it's more in tune with like what your needs are. So it might actually be serving you something that you've been like searching for and like looking for, and like, it's not just some random ad for, XYZ.
absolutely. Okay, I'm going to readjust ourselves here to more of a mobile friendly mode. What else is going on? What are you seeing in the agent kind of lowish code space?
So the low code, no code space, sort of like what I'm seeing there is that all of the model advancements are just making that, some of the projects that we're working on a little bit easier. So as we're like getting towards the completion, you start a project and the tech stack is like at one point, and by the time you're getting towards the end of like trying to develop like a proof of concept, like the tool is more powerful. So you're getting better everything. You're getting better coding, things are happening more efficiently, it's more intuitive. I think with regards to model development, GPT-5, like I said, made some big sort of advancements, but also fell short on some of the expectations. And I think like with regards to the low code, no code stuff, as we see sort of bigger advancements on those models, that's when I think we're going to see some pivotal changes with the tools. And one thing I thought very interesting about the Replit making deals with Google and Perplexity making deals with Google, and these sort of relationships that are happening in the AI space that are sort of like exclusive, but they're very like, it's funny how people are like managing relationships very carefully with like the big providers right now and trying to get in bed with like, certain companies to make sure that they have like the backing and support and the infrastructure. And it's interesting to see how that's all evolving, because there's like the open source side to AI, but there's also like the big players side where they're like buying up as much intellectual property as they can, and sort of each of them are trying to corner their market in their own way, and making offers on companies, and then the companies denying it, so they just go in and start making offers to individual workers to try to, like, there's a lot of really crazy stuff happening right now. So it's yeah, it's just interesting to see on the relationship side how that's all sort of playing out as we see these deals sort of unfold.
And just, there's probably folks that haven't been spending quite as much time with the low code, no code tooling. I know there's been some updates over the last couple of weeks with Lovable. That it was kind of like the easier to use, got an app idea, go and make it. It's getting stronger. Bolt, VO, Replit, Manus,
Yep.
DeepSeek, the agent, those are kind of our suite. They're all improving and they're all learning. So
yeah, it's interesting too, because Lovable sort of started out very much on the design heavy side, and now it's like gotten like much more, and some of them are doing the reverse of that, where they started much more heavy on the coding side, and then the user interface side is like the afterthought, right? Like, so like tools like Jules and stuff like that are very like meat and potatoes, right? So it's interesting to see like the different tools out there and what their focus is and who their product is trying to speak to. And yeah, for my personal favorite is still Replit.
yeah,
I feel like the results that I'm getting on Replit sometimes are enough to send the POC across the finish line without much intervention. And like, that's important for people who are trying to develop ideas. And like, it used to cost like 50 to 100 grand to get a POC out the door, and now like it's much easier to get something that explains what you're trying to do with the product and just gives you like core functionality so that people can experience it, and you can get some funding for projects. So I think, yeah, that whole space is just so amazing to me. And the possibilities for product managers to create ideas and bring them to life is like better than ever before.
Hey, I wanted to go on a different tangent. I had so one second, I'm going to change the screen around because this is better for sharing later. So I'm just going to share something else that's kind of interesting over here in N8N land. So if we go to one of my classic workflows is so every Friday we go for Chinese food with a bunch of friends in Toronto, have a good jam session, talk about ideas. And I've been sending out an email every week for like 5 years now. And my CRM can automate an email and it does a pretty decent job of it, but it wasn't kind of all that interesting. So I had a couple of friends ask me, how do I send out this cool email that's slightly different every week? And what we've done is we send out our invite, and it has a little blurb about an ancient Chinese culinary tradition.
Yeah, I love it.
I written, right? So I thought I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we do that. It's a super simple concept for those of you who have never used like Make or N8N. I kind of see like Lovable and Make are like the slightly easier to get your hands around. Then one level deeper with a little bit more sophistication, you use something like a Replit or N8N. So what you're looking at here is the N8N kind of build your own automation kind of thing. And basically what we do is we set up a trigger. So every Monday at 2:00, it grabs an HTML template that we've created. And this is kind of the cool thing. I'm getting the people that are segmented into a list called Supreme Friends or something like that inside Pipedrive. So what this part of the automation does, it goes into Pipedrive. it's credentialed into my Pipedrive account. It goes into this filter name called Ivory Supreme, grabs anyone in that list and passes it through an OpenAI, kind of running off a 4.0 mini super inexpensive model, following this prompt that tells it it's a culinary historian specialized in Chinese cuisine, and to write a little blurb. Well, then it puts it through kind of an assembler, which grabs the HTML template, plops in the code, and sends it out through my Gmail account. Super simple, lots of fun, but something that anyone can do. In that process alone, for anytime you send out a repeatable email, well, now you can add a twist to it.
That's exactly it. And it's funny because now that you've got Perplexity as an assistant, you can say, hey, here's my N8N workflow, and this is what I'm trying to achieve. And you can get a little bit of help getting there if you like, if you're stuck, right? Or you want to add some certain functionality. So I think the even the environments like N8N, which are sort of like more API centric and geared towards developers, can start to become more accessible to the layperson because of these like agentic browsers, which all of this is like mind blowing to me that the browsers can start to just like agentically assist with this stuff.
It's pretty cool, right? And
yeah, it's very cool.
Little switch around here. Sorry for everyone's eyes. We always run out of time, but I know that you've been doing some work, I guess, clearing the fog away from the underside of enterprise voice apps. I know you're working on some stuff for shopping centers, and figuring out how do you solve for all those kind of fringe use cases, like someone calling in a bomb threat, for example. Like,
yeah, and that's the stuff that's been blowing my mind sort of with the voice technology. Is you've got these, like, some of these malls have like 250 to 300 locations, or we're setting up like specialized query tools within the tech stack to use very specific models which handle CSV data queries as efficiently as possible and return the results quickly. And all of the use cases of like, hey, my store has a flood, and what happens to the receptionist, like, is very timely stuff that it needs to be executed and sent to the right people. And someone calls in and says, hi, I want to get my hair cut today. So we need to make sure those query lists are intuitive enough to keyword those key services that are offered at these locations. So we're learning tons about the design of these things for like such a like these use cases are probably as complex as they can possibly get for like a real estate organizational model, I would say, like with 300 plus locations and people are querying things. But then it makes me think of like, if this was a human trying to do all of this, like, it would have to be someone that like really is just quick at manually looking these things up, but also like has quite a bit of experience to know which way to look at every request. And I think that's something that like maybe you'd get with someone that worked at one of these places for 10 years. But what we're seeing is that these voice agents with very well crafted prompt engineering can do these things and hit the ground running on day one. And it takes a lot of, as it takes a lot of testing, and there's the pronunciations we have to go in with, from the prompt engineering side, and make sure that commonly mispronounced things have a phonetical translation for the tool and all of these things. But as we test and we get closer and closer, you're at this bulletproof solution now, which never changes and always gets it right. And it's sort of, it's just really interesting to see a tool that encompasses that much data and that much requirements, just like firing off like a symphony. It's really like, it's kind of cool to watch.
Yeah, the visual I had in my mind is you see on some movies and TV shows where there's like an astronaut or something in the ship, and there's an alarm going off, and they still got to go pull out the standard operating procedures binder and figure out like, how do we get the landing gear to work, right? Well, it just knows.
And the other thing is that in those intense situations, like a human would get anxiety, and there may or may not be like a performance difference in like what they're providing to the end user. But like when it comes to like threat management or something with a voice agent tool, it's very pragmatic. And it almost is good because it keeps the caller, like, I think it keeps the caller who's like ultra aggressive at bay too, because it's just like a very like, oh, you know, for threats, we need to pass this along to the security team. And it's very like non-emotional about it. And I think like sometimes like maybe people that are in those aggravated situations sort of like get a rise out of people, like get a rise out of that sort of fear. So it's interesting that like voice agents are able to handle all this stuff, and it's like no different than someone asking for a hairdresser than if they're issuing a threat. Like it's just the handling of those scenarios and which way you point those requests type of thing, right? So
yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. I think maybe for my last bit for the week, as many folks know, we're a big user of Smart Leads for our outbound emails. They've just upgraded their kind of whole tooling system. So instead of kind of hand building sequences and other aspects of your email infrastructure, essentially, they've embedded AI into their whole platform now. So you can just say, set me up with 10 new inboxes. I want 5 on an Outlook server, 5 on Gmail. Make sure I only use them for every other campaign. And while I'm not using them, have them being warmed up.
Yeah.
So that's really impacting sales and outreach tooling as well. So yeah, just lots of AI embedding itself into existing apps. I think, at least for us, like using it to read through long documents or rewrite something a little bit differently, that's now kind of staples. But what we're seeing is just being able to use existing apps better and faster.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that too. But you know, the thing that I'm noticing about like current SaaS providers that are just like adding some AI is that it doesn't necessarily always translate well as an afterthought. Like I was on a site, like a grant management site the other day that one of the community organizations uses, and now they've got this like, hey, get help writing a grant with this tool. But the tool's output was like rather like we had already developed a tool to do this, and we looked at the output of that tool and we were like, this thing, it would not help that much. Like you'd still have to go, but the tool that we had already developed from the ground up for this purpose was like firing off like grants that would take 6 to 8 hours to write in like less than 5 minutes, and they were almost ready to go, right? So I think a lot of them are trying to do this, but some of them aren't doing it well yet because their core business model, like it's just too, it's not where they're starting. They're not redesigning these things. They're sort of just like slapping on some AI on, you know, and I get that. I think that organizations are just trying to find their way as all this stuff is evolving quickly, and different organizations have different capabilities. But that's sort of a segue into us saying, if you guys are uncomfortable and you do need an AI partner to take a look at some of these things for your organization that has a SaaS solution that's online, and you guys want to start thinking about how do I make it more powerful with AI, come talk to Chris and I and see if we can take a look at the operations and help you guys.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll reiterate one of the offers that we're thinking about is something that we've been doing as a result of developing business and building up these accounts, is offering a free kind of workflow AI audit. Like, what parts of your business can we save you time and money on by automating those? And we're simply just charging a fee of the money that will save you. So you're actually not paying us anything at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I like that model because everyone has a different level of comfort with AI and how much they want it. And I think the important thing is to be working with someone who understands the security implications as well.
Yeah.
Which we've been working on over the past year, really.
Yep. And I think that's the right conversation to have, because like, for example, the mall spaces, really the demand for like having people walking around the mall is a lot more now than sitting behind a customer service desk. So instead of hiring 2 separate people to do this job, you're getting AI to reduce the cost of the call center customer service so that you can get more people on the floor to address those situations that need to be addressed by a human, right? So it's just a repurposing of labor and a way for people to save money in one area to make other areas of their business more robust.
Amazing. Thanks, dude. We're
Yeah,
just
I had
about
a
out
great
of
time.
time. We'll be doing this again same time next week. I think we settled it on a bit of a time
Yep.
slot here. We'll probably come up with a bit of a thematic, but right now everything's kind of all over the place. So
It's good to talk about this stuff and get out there, keep people engaged, and yeah, I like it though. I think we're gonna get the show's gonna get more refined as we go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. I'm gonna figure out how to shut this down, and
Awesome.
have a great day out there. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, see you soon.